Wake up, wake up. It's a beautiful Friday here in Northern California. Welcome to the Wake Up Extravaganza, the Deuce Plus, the Krueger Show. It is Friday, February the 13th. Let's get this show on the road.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, like and subscribe, all those good things. Thank you very much. Larry, I said to my son today, it's Friday the 13th. And he's 6 years old. He had no idea what that meant. He doesn't know about Jason. He doesn't know about that horror movie, franchise yet. So I'm like, Friday the 13th. And he's like, what? What's a big deal? I'm like, well, really no big deal at all. But here we go.
I'm streaming with Freddy Krueger. And he probably didn't get him.
It is funny, man. The kids will be like, "Are you working with Larry today?" I get a question from Ozzy. "Are you on with Larry today? Can I see you guys?" So, anyways, thanks for everyone for coming on by. Whether you're Jack, Ozzy, or somebody else watching today, it is good to be on with Larry. It's great to be on with you. Thank you so much. And hey, let's kind of hop into what feels like the rumor, the buzz that's going around the NFL, and that's the Minnesota Vikings are going to put Justin Jefferson in play. Now, we know that the 49ers need help at wide receiver. We know that they're lousy at drafting that position. It seems to be an institutional blind spot. And this is the sort of price tag which immediately, in a year where they need to be really active in their draft and keep as many picks as possible to rebuild this team, Larry, a couple days ago, I would have just dismissed it. Nah, don't do that. But let's think about it a little. Let's talk about this a little and what the asking price would be for Justin Jefferson and what his immediate value to the 49ers would become.
It's a really interesting topic. Okay, so one that if you've been following me and my channel for the last, month or so, I've been really anti the Niners doing this. I'm anti the Niners getting Max Crosby. I'm anti the Niners, trading everything for Justin Jefferson because it just seems like this is the wrong time to go all in. And it also, to me, seems like they're looking for a shortcut to the top. And I don't think there are any shortcuts. You gotta actually build through the draft the old-fashioned way. But what has changed my mind to some degree is what I read yesterday. A couple things. One, I'll share this from Coach Yak. Coach Yak put this out on his Instagram, on his Twitter yesterday. It's just this rumor. In this rumor, the 49ers would get Justin Jefferson. The Vikings would get Mac Jones, the Niners' first-round pick this year, and the Niners' second-round pick next year. So in this scenario, Damon, if the Niners were planning on going wide receiver in round one, let's just say, and they have Mac Jones to move, I mean, basically you're telling me that they could go and move Mac Jones and, what the pick that was going to be KC Concepcion to the Vikings for Justin Jefferson. And the only additional thing that would have to be given up is a second in next year's draft. That is at least palatable because you're only giving away one pick this year, your first round pick. And by the way, Coach Yak misspelled Mac. I think there's no K in Mac Jones. I don't believe. I think he's just an MAC. But either way, Mac Jones and a first-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year sounds like a pretty reasonable cost for Justin Jefferson. Damon, that was the first thing I saw was this rumor, right? So I'm like, okay, wait a second. My assumption was it was going to take, 3 or 4 picks, including multiple, day ones and day twos, and I just don't think the 49ers are in that position. They have too many needs. They have 12 or 13 real needs.
Let me just interject. Yeah. The trade that we're looking at right there.
Right.
I do that trade. I would do that trade.
I think I would do this trade. But then later in the day, Damon, I saw a thing saying that Justin Jefferson really would like out, right? That the Vikings are kind of lukewarm on moving him, but that he's basically told them, I don't want to be there anymore. But what I then read was that he said that he would like to play, and the two teams that it said he'd like to play with quarterbacks that he knows. And they listed Joe Burrow, his college quarterback, who's obviously in Cincinnati. And I don't think there's any chance in hell that's going to happen
Yeah,
because
no
they've
one's
already.
trying to get traded to Cincinnati, and they're not doing that deal anyway.
Well, I mean, and if you're Cincinnati, you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and you've got a team that has a bunch of other needs, and you're going to trade assets for Justin Jefferson so you
No
could
way.
be, so you could piss off Jamar Chase and throw him the ball fewer times. I mean, it doesn't quite make sense to have the two number ones like that on that in their scenario because they've got a terrible team. But the other name was Sam Darnold in Seattle, and just the thought of that, of JSN on one side and Justin Jefferson on the other side. And then they've got this kid Barner, and they've got another kid, Elijah Arroyo from Miami, who didn't have a great rookie year, but he really is a phenomenal receiving tight end. So you've got the Barner Arroyo young tight end duo, plus you have JSN, who arguably is the toughest receiver to stop in the league. And then you would add Justin Jefferson. I mean, I'm more about us than them, but in this scenario where they're the Super Bowl champs, they're in your division, they've matched up with you effectively. You need to start matching up with them more effectively. I don't want to see Justin Jefferson in Seattle. And if I'm John Lynch, if I'm Kyle Shanahan, if I'm Jed York, I plant myself in the middle of the deal flow or surrounding Justin Jefferson to guarantee one of two outcomes. I either get this player or somehow I interject and this player gets moved to somewhere other than Seattle, because I don't know how you feel, but my general feeling on it is if the Seahawks, who have a lot of cap room, but they still have to extend Witherspoon and extend JSN, and they got some stars they got to pay. But if they somehow wind up with Jefferson and JSN, Damon, I think they're probably going to win at least one or two more Super Bowls in the next 3 or 4 years. I think they're going to be absolutely a terror for the Niners to have to cover. And then the question is, how do the Niners best react to that? Do they try to block this move? Do they try to load up on your guy, D'Angelo Pons in the draft? Go get all the best corners you can come up with, because guess what? You have Jefferson and JSN twice a year. You have Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. twice a year. You have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams potentially twice a year. That's 6 games against teams with awesome wide receiver combos. Not to mention your Bears have some great young receivers.
Yeah, I mean, look, trenches, and then you're going to need an awful lot of secondary play, too, if that were to all happen. Here's the thing that I don't think you need to worry about Justin Jefferson in Seattle, even though he really wants to play with Sam Darnold again. Jackson Smith and Jigba is about to get a 4-year, $150 to $60 million contract. Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year, $140 million extension with the Vikings just in June of 2024. His cap hits for the following 3 seasons are $39 million, $43 million, $47 million, and change in each and every one of those. I just don't think any team can seriously have like $85 to $90 million in cap space in just 2 wide receivers. Like, if you're asking me how to take teams apart, that would be a good way to do it, because you're losing everything up front, or a lot up front. So I don't think that needs to be a worry. But I will say the other team that's out there could very much be the Buffalo Bills. Remember, the Bills are moving into a brand new stadium, which, by the way, looks incredible and state of the art, and the Niners wish. Okay. Like, I mean, God, that thing looks awesome. But they've got Josh Allen, who would be just as much of a draw for any wide receiver in the league looking to pair himself with a good quarterback as anybody. Joe Brady, the Bills' new head coach. Larry, he was the LSU passing game coordinator when Jefferson was in Baton Rouge with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, which, by the way, how easy was that job, coordinating that passing game? You got 3 absolute studs there. But that could be a little bit of a lure, too. The asking price of the Vikings, I'm looking for comps, right? If you want to find out how much your home is worth in any neighborhood, look at comparable homes. What did they just sell for? The only real comp I have here is when Devontae Adams got traded to the Raiders. The Packers fetched 2 first-rounders. By the way, Devontae Adams was 29 at the time. That is 2 years older than Justin Jefferson, who will be turning 27 in June this year.
Well, and then there's also, I mean, Matt Barrows is on record just in the last 24 hours, and he's pretty clued in. He said that he doesn't think Minnesota's going to wind up pulling the trigger on any trade involving Jefferson. It would be dramatic for sure if they send him packing. But so there's just still some belief that they may just say, you know what, we're keeping this player because he is a great player. I mean, they just say goodbye to Sam Darnold. It cost the GM his job. If they say goodbye to Justin Jefferson and have another 8-win type season, Kevin O'Connell's probably out too. So,
well, if you're trading Justin Jefferson, you're basically signaling at least a lukewarm reset, right? I mean, not a rebuild necessarily, but a reset. You don't,
which is really painful considering you went 14 games 2 years ago with this guy in his prime and Sam Darnold, and you had, what I mean? Now you kissed off Sam Darnold for JJ McCarthy, and now a year later you're potentially kissing off Justin Jefferson still in his prime. I mean, that would be a precipitous, sudden drop for the Vikings. Yeah. Man, that would be painful.
Jefferson started all 17 games last year, and because of the problems the Vikings had at quarterback, he only had 84 catches for 1,048 yards and only just 2 touchdowns. But he has logged at least 1,000 receiving yards in every season that he's played in since joining the NFL in 2020. His 17-game average, Larry, since joining the NFL is 105 catches, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns. What would that do in Kyle Shanahan's system? When you think about how Shanahan gets dudes who really don't have their own ability to get open, and he gets them open through scheme all the time, could you imagine if Kyle Shanahan actually had a player of this caliber running patterns in his offense, how open that could be, how open that would look, or what the gravity would actually do to the other 2 or 3 targets on the field at the same time?
It would help.
I think it would be almost as dramatic as the addition of Christian McCaffrey, which is the single most dramatic move in Kyle's offensive scheme we've seen since Kyle's become the head coach. It would be fantastic for the Niners to add this player
if they could protect. I mean, they could not pass protect at all. Now, granted, in the Seattle game in the playoffs, they couldn't get any separation. But it's funny. It's like there's this little debate going back and forth, and everybody's got a different side on this thing. It's like Lombardi is trying. I've seen Lombardi put out like 10 different tweets that are trying to basically say, hey, the offensive line's good. It's just that they didn't have separation. And then I've seen other people say, oh, my God, the offensive line is horrible, and they need wide receivers that can gain separation. I can't absolve the offensive line of any blame, because the reality is that we all know that Kyle Shanahan has coached around the weaknesses in that offensive line so obviously and so consistently for a few years now, where he's basically, he doesn't try to run it up the middle on short yardage because he knows they're not moving anybody. I mean, Baldy, who's knows a little football too, said, if I'm the Niners, I'm changing out my center.
Yeah.
Now, well, that's something PFF grades be damned, I guess, right? Because supposedly he's got some PFF grades that are decent. But, I mean, screw your PFF grades, because the reality is 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, Shanahan's not even thinking about running the ball in the middle.
I'm watching with my own 2 eyes.
They're not good there.
My own 2 eyes grade for Brendel is worse than his PFF grade.
Well, I mean, here's what I would say is that his numbers are pretty good as a run blocker, but they're not very good as a pass protector, and it's a passing game, So, I mean, you got to, and to me, I don't know that I buy his numbers as a run blocker, because we're talking about a 34-year-old guy who's about 285 pounds and really doesn't move any of these Byron Murphy type guys, these Leonard Williams type guys. He can't move those guys. So it's about fooling them. And if he's not a great pass protector, I can see that he doesn't, he might be a technician in the run game, but I don't think he's blowing anybody out of the hole in any kind of short yardage situation. So, I mean, I think it's time for the 49ers to kind of try to redefine the interior of the protection for Brock Purdy and get him a great young center who's 300 pounds plus, but is athletic as hell, and then a road grading monster guard that can absolutely shut down any kind of penetration in the middle. If you can do that and give Brock a little bit more of a wall in front of him, I think you're going to be able to run the ball. I think you're going to be able to throw it to whatever receivers you have. So I definitely, any rebuild this year, in my mind, has to start with two or three offensive linemen, interior, and definitely two interior offensive linemen. I need a center and a guard. They don't have to both come in the draft. One could come in free agency, but I need a center and a guard coming in this
when teams in your division are teams that you're not just chasing for division titles, but absolute, NFC supremacy, and
right.
49ers are on the heels of the Seahawks and the Rams. What I think you got, here's the thing. You got to zig to their zag. If they're zigging, you can't also zig, right? You got to do a little something. So knowing all the firepower that these other teams have at wide receiver, I think the way that the Niners combat that isn't necessarily by adding Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson's super sexy, and we'll get back to why in just a second.
And we've already explained why it's scary to not, you can't just be like an isolationist on this one. You can't just be like, hey, we're just going to deal with our own stuff in our own country over here. No. If Jefferson winds up in your division, that's like, somebody
global
moving
economy affecting you.
Yeah, I mean, you just had your biggest, biggest adversary park their car on the corner of your house, in the corner where you live. It's kind of you should take notice. Let's just say that.
If everyone's getting better on the outside, you better damn well get better on the inside. It's just that simple. And I think all good football starts inside and then goes outside. Shanahan just proved it implicitly. With a group of literally galactically unimpressive wide receivers, the 49ers were still a very good passing team in this league this year. That's with a backup quarterback and an offensive line, which we just discussed is not the best pass protecting offensive line in the league. So the Niners, how they get by on the margins is really a testament to Shanahan's coaching. If you gave him a better offensive line, it just changes everything. If you give them a better defensive line, well, that changes absolutely everything. If you can get to a quarterback with 4 down linemen, you can play as much chess as you want to play as a defensive coordinator. The thing about Justin Jefferson, though, why I would be willing to sacrifice a first rounder and the value of Mac Jones fetching other draft picks would be, it would definitely fill a position of need, Larry, and it addresses a blind spot, not necessarily in the offense, but in the front office. I have no faith on this team identifying a wide receiver that will turn around and then help the Niners in the year in which he is drafted. It just does not happen. It has not happened. I'm not saying it's impossible and couldn't happen, but the odds are against the 49ers. Their blind spot is wide receiver, which is maddening. And it doesn't matter who he is. It doesn't matter what the skill set is. It doesn't matter where he comes from. Here's one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. Doesn't matter. Won't even play here. Here's one of the best wide receivers in the old Pac-12, now Big Ten. Doesn't matter. Won't even play the guy. Won't even give him, if he sprains his ankle in training camp, we'll see him in his sophomore year. Like, that's the way wide receivers.
Name me the good receiver.
Change that.
Name me the big time receiver that they've had that they didn't play. It's not that they're, let's take this.
But they're drafting.
We're going to point the finger. If we're going to point the finger, let's point the finger where it belongs. Let's be really accurate about it. I don't think that it's like, oh my God, Shanahan has all these great young receivers and he just won't play them. No, they're taking Jalen Hurd. They're drafting, crappy receivers for the most part. And that's, Cowing's glass. He can't get on the field. Ricky Pearsall the same. Can't get on the field. The Jordan Watkins one is a little mystifying for sure, but I mean, he also wasn't a high pick. The bottom line is, and we talked about this in a couple other streams earlier this week. In the college game, Damon, every position's not like every other position. In the college game, this is playing receiver. I looked to the sideline. He showed a purple card, and so I ran my purple route. Oh, okay. But that's not what you do in the NFL. In the NFL, it's like you're going to have to hear Brock call the play. It's going to have all kinds of verbiage. There's going to be a number in there that reflects the route that you're supposed to run. There's all going to be all kinds of complexity and adjustments that are going to have to be made to different coverages against that same route. You're going to have to memorize all this stuff. It's not, The buffed coach on the sidelines, just held up a purple card, so I know what route to run. Oh, now he's holding up a yellow card. I know what route to run. So the layers of complexity at wide receiver specifically compared to college and the pros, huge difference, night and day. And so you got to be smart. And some of these college receivers have never had to do anything except, cinch up their gloves and get to the line of scrimmage. And it's like in the pros, it's like you've got to be where Brock thinks you're going to be when he thinks you're going to be there on every single play, because they're throwing timing routes and anticipatory throws and throwing it to the void. And you've got to be where you're supposed to be. They would take a marginally less player, an athlete who's going to be where he's supposed to be, Kendrick Bourne, as opposed to somebody who can run really well, but he only is going to be where he's supposed to be a third of the time. So there are very few rookie receivers that do it. And that's another reason why the Jefferson thing is intriguing, because the Niners are not thinking, hey, we're going to contend again in 2032. They're trying to contend right now. And I love KC Concepcion, but there may be a ramp-up period. I love Chris Bell from Louisville, but he tore his ACL. There may be a ramp-up period. I love this kid, Zachariah Branch from Georgia, but he's 175 pounds, and there may be an adjustment period as far as the physicality. And you can kind of say the same thing about a lot of these guys. So all I'm saying is you got to get yourself a receiver. I saw Dane Brugler's breakdown of the top 100 prospects. He's got 17 wide receivers, more than any other position. So that's a good sign, because the Niners need wide receivers. And this is a draft that he has at least 17 going in the top 100. But picking the right receiver is going to be a problem. And then picking the right receiver that's going to be able to contribute immediately. And again, so that's why the Justin Jefferson conversation, I think, is salient. And even if it isn't Jefferson per se, what about A.J. Brown? What about Jordan Addison? What about Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville? There's a few other receivers out there. There's talk about maybe a deal involving Drake London. There's a number of other receivers out there, but I think the Niners at least have to consider. They got to consider what the price tag is for these great receivers, for multiple reasons. They got to have the guy produce right away. They don't want Jefferson to be in Seattle. I mean, there's a few factors there that are, I think, kind of should impact their thinking a little bit.
I think they need to be incredibly involved in any negotiation. If the Vikings are real about this, the Vikings are serious about moving this guy, I think the Niners have to be serious about figuring out if it fits for them. And they have to be very serious about making sure that it doesn't happen to Seattle. He can't be in Seattle when it's all said and done. If he's in Buffalo, if he's in the AFC, all right, you can live with that. You can absolutely live with that. And then you come back and you make all your draft picks and you hope to hit there. And to me, though, he is an interesting guy. I mean, he really is. He's always available. Somebody here in the chat said Jefferson's always hurt. No, he's not. No, this guy plays 17 games a year. Pretty much every year he's been in the league. I think he had one fewer than 17 his first year, but that's when they were playing 16-game seasons, right? And then he had 1 year where he only played 10. He did get hurt, but that was 2 years ago. Before that, he was leading the NFL in just like everything, in targets, in receptions, in yardage. He's a special player. He's a player that would instantly show up, and there are no excuses for Kyle Shanahan on day one with this guy. This is someone who is out on in every single offensive snap he's on the field, period. Well, if he isn't a great blocking wide receiver, who gives a shit? He's a great wide receiver.
This guy's a difference maker. The only thing it would change is it would put a little pressure on the 49ers to make sure that they got him the ball, because he is a great player and you want to make sure that he's touching the ball as much as possible. But give you an example. I mean, Juwan Jennings is a free agent, and Ricky Pearsall is kind of an unknown at this point. And this entire wide receiver core needs to be either, injected with some talent, or they need to make real decisions here. And some of the stuff that I've read, Damon, flat out is terrifying. the idea that somebody would pay Juwan Jennings north of $22 million a year, I mean, that's terrifying. The idea that the 49ers would be stupid enough to try to bring back old, broken down Deebo Samuel is terrifying to me. Because it's so easy to envision them doing something like that. I think there's a couple themes that I would have for this offseason that I've thought about. And the themes would be these. Do not in any way be sentimental about your former players. Either guys on your team now that you have to say goodbye to, the Juwan Jennings of the world. And then don't be nostalgic for, oh man, Eric Armstead's out there. Oh man, Javon Hargrave. Dre Greenlaw just got, cap casualtied by Denver. Oh, it would be great to get Dre back. Oh, we get all the Mooney's out there. No. Do not look back. That's lesson number one. Do not look back at your former players and try to get the band back together. Do not fucking try to get the band back together. I'm already getting the sense from Kittle that there is some momentum for trying to get the band back together. Fuck getting the band back together. The band sucks.
George's nostalgia cannot be the compass by which this freaking offseason marches to.
The band did not play Madison Square Garden. The band that we're talking about played Golden Gate Park. All right, let's not pretend. Let's not try to get this amazing band back together that wasn't amazing. Okay, so that's one. Do not look back. That's number one. Number two, learn something from what you just experienced. You need a bigger, more physical offensive line to contend with Seattle's D-line. You need better corners to deal with Seattle's receivers, most notably JSN, and better receivers with more speed at tight end, running back, receiver, better weaponry, faster weapons that can gain separation from Seattle's secondary. If you don't do the last thing is don't ignore the obvious. Who was the best team in college football? Your Hoosiers. This draft, any way you slice it, and I've looked at all these prospects extensively already. Got a lot of time between now and the draft to do more of it. I'm totally enamored with what Cignetti built in Indiana. And if I'm the 49ers, I absolutely am all over D'Angelo Pons. I'm all over Kalon Black, all over these guys. I'm all over Mikhail Kamara. I'm all over Pat Coogan. I might be all over Omar Cooper. I mean, I'm picking off no less than 3 or 4 of these special players that Indiana just won the national title with, because it's Indiana and they won the national title. And it's not because Cignetti is a magical guy. It's because he had a lot of really, really good players that if you look really close, Pons is exactly the kind of corner that I want. And Kalon Black is exactly the kind of runner that you need to have with Christian McCaffrey. And Mikhail Kamara is exactly the kind of edge piece that you need opposite Nick Bosa.
This makes me happy, Larry, because if I say this, everyone's like, well, you're a homer. You're a guy who's
true.
It's true. You're colorblinded. But
it is true. These are special players, and they're special, Damon, not for necessarily their body. They're special because of this and this. They got Indiana gathered a bunch of guys who have tremendous heart and tremendous football smarts, and these are really special players. And across the board, they're all, by the way, have a flaw. Well, D'Angelo Pons is awesome, except he's short. Kalon Black is an amazing talent, except he's thought of to be like a day 3 guy because he's not considered to be a home run hitter. Kamara is 260 pounds and a great pass rusher, but he's 6 feet tall. Coogan was the MVP of the Rose Bowl, but he's considered to be not athletic enough, so he's going to go late day 3. All I'm saying is you got an opportunity to get those guys. Go get
every one of those guys was in position to be at Indiana and succeed this year because, again, there was something that made them overlooked by the big-time program. I mean, Coogan transferred in from Notre Dame, so he was at a big-time program. But you look at the other guys who come from James Madison, or just got to the Indiana through the portal, or were on IU to begin with, and they were from the, again, if you are a physical freak of nature with football skill, you weren't on that Indiana team. You were on a team with a higher profile, and then Indiana, with a whole bunch of actual football players, came and beat you.
The word is grit. Kalon Black doesn't fumble. D'Angelo Pons is just an absolute beast. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Pons tweet from yesterday or the day before. He's working out. They're saying he looks so amazing in the workouts. He had an incredible year. Now he's running in the 4.3s. And it's like, yeah, this guy's going to go in the third round probably because he's short, or he's probably going to go in the second round because he's short. But guess what? That's a first-round player right there, man. There's no doubt in my mind. So all I'm saying is the themes for the year: you got to get speedy, you got to get offensive linemen, you got to get secondary guys, you got to get defensive linemen, and you got to pick off these Indiana guys, as many as you can possibly get. And to me, these themes are smart. Don't look back. Don't get nostalgic for your yesteryear players. And then, like today, my man Raj just put this up. The contracts for Juwan Jennings, Jordan Elliott, and Yatir Gross-Matos all expired today, which will create a combined $14.464 million of dead cap space for the 2026 season, according to Spot Track. But I mean,
just saw, so Dave Lombardi also was talking about cap space, and he was reacting to Jennings, Yatir Gross-Matos, and Jordan Elliott having their contracts set to void today. And he says the 49ers are still going to have about $57 million in cap room.
Right, which is going to be top 10 in cap room.
It's a good number to play with. Again, look, what if I told you
it's not the Tennessee Titans who have lead the NFL with the most. I mean, Robert Saleh went to Tennessee for a reason. They lead the NFL with like $141 million in cap room, some ridiculous amount of cap room. So they're going to be big players in free agency. And I would imagine Jennings could easily go there just because of that kind of money that they have. But the 49ers have money to spend in free agency. And now the question is, how do you, the 49er fan, want them to spend it?
I would like to see them spend some money on a wide receiver who's proven in this league. This is going back to why we're talking about Justin Jefferson, because that guy, along with being proven, is like one of the best at his position. But I've been saying it since the day that the list came out. Alec Pierce, Wendell Robinson. Yeah. These are guys that the 49ers need to implement into an offense that they can trust instantly because they played NFL games. The guy that you draft, no matter how excited you are about him, has never played an NFL game. And it just feels like Shanahan does not have success with that formula often at that position. Who's going to help Ricky Pearsall? Who is going to actually put that guy under his wing and say, this is how you be a pro? I don't know if Ricky's been on the team with that right guy yet. DeMarcus Robinson is somebody who's coming back. I'm excited about that. I sure hope they use him more than they did last year.
I think the name that you just said, though, Damon, is the guy that I would go after. Because, like, what are you looking for in free agency? You're looking to find a couple of guys who are going to – because, like, you don't want to – there's a price that you got to pay. So you don't want the guy who's been great that you have to pay a big price to and then hoping that he'll justify that big price on your team. The better way to do it, I think, is to go find the guy – who, for whatever reason, hasn't necessarily produced to make the big money yet. Give you a couple examples. You just named one, Wandale Robinson with the Giants. He's played with bad quarterbacks. You know, he hasn't necessarily done amazing stuff. This year, though, he produced a career best 1.87 yards per route run, which was a good number. And then Wandale Robinson and George Pickens had the same number of deep catches and deep targets this year. But Robinson actually had 16 more deep yards than Pickens, and Wandale had 76 combined deep yards before the season. So Wandale is played with bad quarterbacks, and he's played with Malik Neighbors and other receivers, and he was a prolific receiver at Kentucky.
And look, he's tough as hell. He's a slight guy. He's not the biggest guy in the room, not even close.
I mean, he's kind of small, but he's not. He's short, but he's not small. He's like, as you said, he's strong. But the other guy is Kyle Pitts. I mean,
You
go
know
after
who's
a
never
Kyle
small?
Pitts. Go after
The
a
guy who's never
Wandale.
small is the guy who's willing to go over the middle, and that guy goes over the middle. I don't care what size he is. You go over the middle, you're not small in this league. You got guts.
Well,
So
my
he's
point
willing
is
to do
just that you're hoping to get like a player like a Wandale and then have him emerge as a greater player. He would make sense to me. The other one that I think there's a great article out right now on Bleacher Report, and the Bleacher Report's great at these topics. The 10 young free agents, the 10 veterans every team should sign, every team's number one trade bait. They do these kind of articles that make you click through the entire league and they get a bunch of clicks. I get it. So I fall for it every now and then. But they have an article up right now, overlooked veterans every team must prioritize in free agency. And they've got 3 or 4 guys here that it was like I wrote this article myself. It was crazy. Listen to the guys they have on this list. And these are all really good ones. In fact, I could just share the screen. You could see the thing. The number one guy on this list is Kenneth Gainwell, from formerly of the Eagles, now with the Steelers. Really solid running back. That would be he can catch the ball in the backfield. He would be a great compliment to McCaffrey. That's a good name.
He would be just the kind of guy that Shanahan only gives 2 carries a game to. Just totally get ignored anyways.
Either way, they're going to have to give somebody besides CMC the ball. So that's one guy. The other guy is Christian Kirk. The Niners are looking for a speedy receiver. This guy got broken off big time by Trent Baalke a few years ago in Jacksonville. He's now in Houston. He's not old, though, and he can run. And Christian Kirk might be a really good, low-cost, down-the-field alternative at wide receiver. Here's one, and I think you've brought this name up before. Tight end Isaiah Likely. The Niners need a tight end, and I like Pitts, but Isaiah Likely is probably going to be cheaper than Pitts, and I think Isaiah Likely is going to be a very, very good free agent signing for whoever gets him, and I don't think he's going back to Baltimore. Baltimore's got major cap problems. So I don't know about Luke Fortner. I mean, he's probably a pretty solid guy, but I like this guy right here, Joseph Osai, who played at Texas and has played with Cincinnati and had that terrible penalty against Mahomes in the Bengals Chiefs playoff game a few years ago that basically allowed the Chiefs to ice the game, and he took a lot of heat for that. But the guy's 25 years old, and he's young, he's healthy. They list the Niners and Cowboys as potential fits for him. So anyway, just a few names there. Joseph Osai, I definitely could see with the Niners. Isaiah Likely would be a phenomenal get if they could get him. Christian Kirk would be a really good wide receiver if you're looking for a vertical threat that's cheaper. And this guy, Kenneth Gainwell, I think could be a great compliment to McCaffrey, and he could be your Brian Robinson. So anyway, just an article on Bleacher Report that people ought to check out. But we're in that part. We're about 3-4 weeks away from free agency. It begins at the beginning of March. We're in the middle of February. So we're a couple weeks away from free agency. And I think everybody's starting to kind of formulate their plans and what they like and who they want to pursue. And the Niners will have some money this year to play with. Hopefully they spend it.
There was a story on ESPN.com this morning about, every team's offseason plans. And you could tell that this is one of those where they just asked Nick Wagner to file something. And he's like, all right, let me just broad brush it for you. Because this is not really a helpful article. What he says, the 49ers should be motivated to make some big moves this offseason, especially since so many of their key veterans are closer to the end of their careers than the beginning. In what San Francisco viewed as a reset year in 2025 is still managed to go 12-5 and nearly earn the NFC's number 1 seed. The good news is the 49ers appeared to be a bit ahead of schedule after last year's offseason roster makeover. The bad news, they play in a division with the Seahawks and the Rams, who don't appear to be slowing down anytime soon. In other words, nothing really there. There's no insight at all as to what they're going to do. It just sort of tells you where their situation is, and we knew all that. They need to have, you talk about free agency, you talk about a big trade for Justin Jefferson, all of that would be interesting for sure. This draft, Larry, is the draft that means the Shanahan-Lynch regime goes on, or it comes to a screeching halt 2-3 years from now. This draft is you cannot mess around with this draft. It really is. And I know that we said that last year. I think we said it the year before too. But this is really it. They need to have real players who are really contributing coming from this rookie class, or they're going to get middled. They're going to get middled in this league. They're never, I think, going to be like a 3-win, 5-win embarrassing football team. They're too well coached and too good at quarterback for that to happen. But I could see them be stuck in the 8-9 win, just not as good as the Rams, good as the Seahawks. You're a third-place team in your own division. Is that good enough to be a wild card? No, it wasn't this year. So that is what the 49ers need. This is a draft where they cannot fuck this up. And the amount of intensity on Lynch and Shanahan to get this right, I just think needs to be through the roof. They have to. What
do you make of their draft record? I mean, I asked this because I and I don't want to rehash the whole thing. I won't rehash the whole thing. But I mean, it's really obvious if you look at their track record that they struggle mightily in the first and second round.
Yeah.
And they make up for it in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the undrafted markets. And there is almost no example of the opposite. I mean, they literally, you pick a year, name any year between 2017 and 2024. Any year, go ahead, pick any year you want.
Okay, let's go 2022.
2022. The Niners' first 3 picks in that draft were Drake Jackson, Ty Davis Price, and Danny Gray, which is obviously a disaster. But then on day 3,
disaster. Who on that list is even in the league right now?
I mean, Drake's on Washington's team. Ty Davis Price, I saw at the Florida LSU game shooting T-shirts out of a cannon, so I think he's done. Danny Gray has always been fragile. The NFL's too physical for him. So I don't think any of them really are players, really. But anyway, that's their Niners' top 3 picks. They were third rounders. The Niners, though, on day 3 in that same draft, took Spencer Burford, Kalia Davis, and Brock Purdy. So, I mean, it's like, and Spencer Burford, I think, is going to get paid handsomely in free agency, and Kalia Davis has emerged as a nice rotational defensive lineman, and Purdy's obviously your starting quarterback. So, once again, another year where the Niners can't pick early but could pick late. And literally any year you had picked, there is examples of the exact same thing, where they drafted poorly in the first and second round, but they made up for it on day 3. I don't know if they made up for it, but they landed some guys on day 3.
All I can also say is that, their one first-round success, obviously, Nick Bosa, they almost don't even get credit for that. My mom could have drafted Nick Bosa. That took no effort at all. That took no examination. That took no skill set to draft Nick Bosa.
Them getting Nick Bosa is like the Cardinals or the Jets or, the Lions before they got good, getting like Penei Sewell or it's like, do you give the GM tons of credit? No, you're the second pick in the draft, and this was a special player that happened to fall into your lap.
They better get it right. I would have loved to have seen this team add another pair of eyes to this equation, but they didn't, and it's obvious they're not gonna, Larry. They're not going to bring in someone, I think, from, I know on Monday we were talking about who's the best assistant in Seattle? Who's the best assistant right now in New England even? They've reset their roster. Who is the best assistant general manager? Who is somebody who can come in here and be the successor to John Lynch? Who is that person? They're not identifying him. They're not looking for that person. They're not adding that person. So here we go again.
Well, it's all about their setup. I mean, they set it up with the head coach, and the coach picked the GM, and they like the coach, and the GM that the head coach picked is not necessarily, whether it's the coach himself or his handpicked GM, they're not hitting in the draft at the rate that they need to keep up with the best teams in football. And they can do nothing and be left alone. Like right now, it's like, I'm sure there's probably some part of Jed that's like, hey, Kyle, why don't we try this? And he's like, leave me alone. I'm going to do what I want. I want to go with who I want to go with. And then they're just going to defer to him until they pull the plug on the whole thing. That's what I think.
There's a guy here who says, I hear someone knocking. I'm sorry, that's on my side. We're having some gutter work done on the side of the house today. And I wanted this guy to show up around 1:00 this afternoon. He decided to show up this morning. And I'm not going to go.
He's an early riser, man. He's an early riser. He's getting the job done early. He's trying to get his Friday done early. Now, Damon, are you going with all new gutters or just the new spouts? Where I do know my gutters. I mean, I can talk gutters.
Larry. It's a new downspout. We offered
new downspout.
The Minnesota Vikings had a gutter that we were really interested in, and Jillian and I traded a first rounder and a future first rounder to get this gutter work done. So
just make sure that he puts on the proper conduit on the bottom so that the water flows away from the home, as opposed to, a lot of downspouts, just all of a sudden the water drops and it just sits right there at the base of the house. And that's not good. You don't want puddling against the walls of the structure. You want a conduit to roll that water down there.
And Larry, we're trying to be good neighbors. We certainly don't want the water to be interfering with any foundation of our neighbor to our left of us. So we're working on it. There are many people on this job right now. So
life of a homeowner.
It's a great
homeowner. There's no end to the number of things that need to be paid for.
It never stops. It seriously never ever stops, which means probably it's a good time for us to start looking at supers today. We don't have many. Did any of them come in on my side? I got to pay for gutters. Hopefully these all came in on my side, Larry.
Yeah, we've got some gutter payment right here. All right. We've got this one from, what is that? Riker Trav. Lazy effing Larry, wake the F up. Hi, Damon.
Hi. How are you?
We get this one from Joseph Ernberg. Go get Michael Wilson. Is Breece Hall possible? Breece Hall is a free agent. Went to Iowa State.
I think he was actually Brock Purdy's roommate, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean they talked about playing Madden against each other, but I think Breece Hall might be a little bit outside because you got to remember this: Dallas needs a running back bad. Kansas City needs a running back bad. They're in the market and they've got money to spend, and they're going to try to go get a Breece Hall type back. Where I think the Niners are going to look for backs that can complement Christian for sure, but Breece Hall is expected to be like the bell cow. I think the Niners, as I said, I'd be perfectly happy if next year the Niner running back room was Juice back on a 1-year deal, because I thought he had a pretty good year. CMC, Jordan James, Kalen Black, and like a Kenneth Gainwell, something like that. And then just use those guys. Use Gainwell from time to time. Use Black from time to time.
One of the things that I was thinking too, just in terms of I was imagining Justin Jefferson on this team, I thought, so what would he do for Ricky Pearsall? And then, by the way, your wide receivers, I really think would be for an awful lot of the sets would be Justin Jefferson, Ricky Pearsall, and Christian McCaffrey. It is time to start admitting what Christian McCaffrey is, and it's time to use him almost more as a slot than as a running back. It's time.
Agree.
It's time for the evolution of Christian McCaffrey to actually happen in Kyle Shanahan's mind, where he is not getting the majority of running back carries. And that falls on Jordan James, or like you said, they draft Keon Black, or they add Gainwell, whatever. They need something to take the workload off of McCaffrey with still having him out on the field. And I think as a slot receiver, he might even be better positioned to help the Niners more than the 8 to 12 carries that feel like they're being thrown away for a 2-yard gain.
I agree. And I had Todd Husak on KMBR last night. And, Todd's a big fan of McCaffrey and has always been a big supporter. He's a former color analyst for Stanford when Christian was there. And that was his idea last night. Hey, you know what? It's time to get another running back and use Christian more as a slot receiver and get him out in space and don't have him run through the line of scrimmage, and get him out in open spaces and throw him the ball. And I think it would preserve him and preserve his body. And I mean, just imagine if you got to the playoffs with a really healthy McCaffrey and 2 other guys that were running it effectively behind your revamped offensive line. The difference on Brock Purdy and the pressure is night and day. So it's to me, that's a major one. I love that idea. T-Bone. 2 questions. 1, chance the 49ers can find a Jefferson with a first and second round pick, likely zero based on the 49er draft history. 2, is Justin Jefferson another high-priced diva wide receiver? We don't need another diva after Ayuk.
What would be the example of Justin Jefferson's a diva? I don't have it. I haven't seen it. I haven't read about it.
Yeah, I mean, they're all divas to some degree. As far as when I say they're all divas, I'm talking about guys who play on the perimeter in the NFL on either side of the ball. A big part of the value proposition of these guys, Damon. And you know what? It's just like, I remember when I talked to Bob Agnew about broadcasters. He's like, you know what? The guy's a jackass, but you know what? He's confident. I like that. I need confidence in my guys. You don't want to hire a talk show host that is kind of like, I think I can do it. You know what I mean? You got to hire a talk show host who's like, fucking, you should have hired me 3 years ago, and the guys that you have are horse shit. I'm going to be the best guy the day I walk in. And I know that might be annoying to some other people, but you have to identify the kind of behavior that you need to be good. And believe me, as a former personnel guy, the one thing that I know better than anything is, yes, when you go meet guys, football players, you want them to be good guys and humble and nice guys like everybody else, like you would have at any place of work. But when you're dealing with the guys who are on the perimeter, the corners and the receivers, they have to think that their shit doesn't stink. They've got to think that they're it. They're the difference maker. I mean, every good corner I've ever met thinks that they're like, tough and badass, and
they're all Deion Sanders in their own mind.
Right. Demo Lenore, give me one-on-one with JSN. It's like, dude, you can't handle that. No, give me JSN all day. I want to go ISO all day.
I'll mirror him wherever he goes, even though it's not our defense.
Like when they asked Shanahan about that, hey, Kyle, Demo Lenore says he'd like to go one-on-one with JSN. What do you think about that? Or maybe when they asked Saleh, I forget, but I can remember one of those two coaches saying, smiling and going, that's exactly what we want Demo to think. That's exactly what we're
looking for around here.
That's the attitude we want. I don't know if we're going to do that. You know what I mean? Like Saleh would be like, I don't know if we're going to do that. And here's why. Because, that means we'd have to play man, and it would really impact the other guys. And so he had reasons for why they weren't going to do it. But he's like, I love that he thinks he can do it. I love that he wants to do it. And the same thing with receivers. Like if you talk to Jerry Rice, you'd be like, God, this guy's an egomaniac. But go talk to every receiver in the league and you'll realize they're all egomaniacs. They're all like, get me the damn ball. I can. And that's what you need. So that's the key. Don't misread corners and wide receivers, braggadociousness as a negative. It's actually a prerequisite.
Give me irrational self-confidence.
Right.
Irrational self-confidence has served me well in my career. This is a saying that I used to use on the radio, and I know that Draymond Green listened to my show an awful lot because Draymond talks about irrational self-confidence. You do need it as a professional athlete.
You do. And you need it as a broadcaster. I remember when I walked into Bob Agnew's office, and he's like, and I knew what question he was going to ask me. I absolutely knew, because I had never broadcast in a major radio station ever. And it was 1997, and he was talking about hiring me. And I knew this question was coming. Krueger, why should I hire your ass? That's exactly. And I'm like, I knew that question was coming. And so I'm like, because you don't have anybody like me. I go, if the Giants lose tomorrow night and they look bad, I'm going to say it. And people are going to like it. And you don't have anybody in your lineup right now that's going to do that. So if you want that, hire me. If you don't want that, I'm sure there's some yes man in the hallway that will say exactly what everybody else is saying. Go hire that guy. And then I just shut up. And he's like, I like that. I like that. You know what I mean? It's like, so you got to know like what job you're applying for. If you're at Deloitte and Touche, some kind of, in consulting firm, and you walk in and say, I'm the best freaking consultant you ever met, they're going to be like, there's the door. We can't handle this attitude. This is not going to fit in our corporate environment. It doesn't work at Deloitte and Touche, but it does work on the radio, and it does work in the NFL.
All I can tell you is that I had a very similar conversation with Bob Agnew. There was some Warrior off-season roundtable.
Right.
I wasn't asked to be a part of it. And I'm like, who do you have running this thing? He's like, Rick Barry. I'm like, wrong choice. He's like, wrong choice? I'm like, yeah, look, if you're going to go out and play basketball today, you should have Rick over me. But if you're going to talk basketball on the radio today, you should have me over Rick. I'm better than him. I'm not trying to get hired. I'm not trying to suck up to the NBA or the Warriors or Warrior ownership.
Not angling for a job.
I'm not here to kiss ass. I'm here to talk hoops. And the Warriors suck. This was when the Warriors sucked. And he said, but I remember saying that to Bob Agnew. You want to play basketball? Go get Rick Barry. You want to talk basketball? Have Damon Bruce do that. And he did not ask me to host, but he was like, I like that. That's the right attitude. I'm like, yeah, right. And I'm fucking right about that.
Because you know what? Bob also hired a guy one time who said everything he wanted to say. He was like 8 minutes into the segment and he just stopped talking. And the producer had to go to a commercial. And Agnew ran down the hall. And this guy, I won't name this announcer, but he was a former 49er of significance from a previous era. And Agnew's like, what the heck? What happened? And the guy goes, I said everything I wanted to say. He's like, no, you don't get it. You know, we you got to keep talking. You got to keep talking. I don't know how. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but you just got to do it. You got to, And of course they fired him. But that's just the way it is. I mean, it's like
who was it? Was it Keena Turner?
No. Older, previous.
Okay.
We're talking about
all right.
A Niner from the 70s.
Okay.
Who happened to be filling in. And the guy just said,
he
goes, I'm done. I've said everything I wanted to say. He's like, I've got another half hour to fill. What am I supposed to tell? You can't. What do you mean you said everything you want to say? Say it again.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
That's
we got
great.
another one here. Fuji in the house. I'm glad San Francisco and the Bay Area small businesses got a Super Bowl windfall. Leave it to an SI Wildcat to know all about gutters. Haha. Nice little rip. As far as the Bay Area and the Super Bowl, I think it was an overwhelming success. It sounds like the Super Bowl was an overwhelming success for everybody except for Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny, it sounds like got the audience disappeared for Bad Bunny. But other than that, I thought the game was what I thought the game would be, which is kind of it isn't what I thought it would be. I thought New England would hang, but I thought it would be a defensive slog. I took the under, and it was a defensive slog. So the game I thought kind of delivered what I thought it was going to deliver. I thought the Bay Area sparked.
First of all, you handicapped the game totally wrong. You like New England. I took
New England on the teaser to the under. No, I mean I lost. I had to pay Dieter. My whole thing though, if you know me, I wasn't super fired up about New England. I just didn't want to root for Seattle. My nephew's a Patriots fan. So I was just kind of trying to come up with excuses. I didn't bet a lot of money. I made some money on the under. I lost some money on the teaser, whatever. But I bet I rooted for the side I wanted to root for. I just couldn't sit there on Super Bowl Sunday. I asked Kev right before the kickoff, Damon. I'm like, what do you got, man? What are you betting today? And he's like, oh man, I'm just taking Seahawks on the money line. And it's like, it sounded so smart, right? I'm like, oh, you're right. It's going to be Seahawks. It's going to be Seahawks one way or another, right? And then I said to myself, you know what? I'll just go Seahawks on the money line as a lay, but then I'm like, no, then I'm going to be that guy that has 3 fantasy football teams and I'm rooting for this and I'm rooting for that. And I don't know what I'm rooting for. Yeah. Have you ever had more than one fantasy team? It ruins it for me.
Totally.
To me, I cannot do more. I got to do one fantasy team. If I even have 2, I hate it. My son one year, my youngest son, when he was like 15 or 12 or whatever, he went with 5 fantasy teams. And I'm like, Chris, every game you're rooting for some guys, but also against the same guys. You're the one guy that's beating you in this league. It's on your team in that league. I go, you're kind of ruining the whole fantasy experience by betting, having 5 teams.
Are we here to gamble or are we here to hedge? I don't like guys who just like, I'm hedging. Go be a gardener if you like hedging that much. Let's freaking gamble, baby.
Seriously. That's a good line. I got to use that sometime. All right. We got this one from Jerry Martinez. The Niners need to concentrate on the offensive side as the top priority, especially on receivers. I hear you. But the bottom line is the Niners had 20 sacks last year. They were dead last by 6 sacks. They have the least pass rush of anybody in pro football. Now they're going to get Bosa back. They're going to get McHale back. That will help.
Have you heard about the Joey Bosa rumor? Now, let me just tell you, Joey Bosa is not going to give anybody a discount to come play with his brother. Joey Bosa couldn't give a shit about being with Nick Bosa. If any of that was supposed to lure him into the situation, it would have happened last year. Don't count on Joey Bosa giving any sort of a discount to the Niners to come play with his brother. Them Bosa boys are just about cashing checks. The biggest they can.
Discount is not in their vocab. But I will say this, I have heard Joey Bosa to the Niners, and if the Niners could work out the right price, he played well enough last year. I mean, I saw some of the rankings. PFF had him as the seventh best defensive end out of 171 guys that they measured. So I mean, he's still pretty good. And he's an edge setter, and he's a big-bodied guy, and obviously the Niners have a need there. If he was willing to come here and it wasn't going to just totally destroy their salary cap, I'd be interested. I mean, it's just, why would I be interested? I want to build and go with young guys, but give you an example, Damon. I'm watching the Rise of the Niners. Have you've been watching it at all? Have you checked it out?
Watched the whole thing, all 4 episodes.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's incredible. So the Rise of the Niners had this one moment, and it's I lived it, right? Because I grew up here, and the Niners were terrible when I was a little kid. It's I was born in 70, so I was paying attention to Niner football from 75 on. And they had some good defensive lines and stuff, but they were bad. 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. They were bad, really bad. Double-digit losses, really embarrassing. 4 coaches in 2 years before they hired Walsh. And then 81 came. So they had Walsh before they were good. They had Joe before they were good. They were 6-10 in 80 with Joe and Walsh. So it's not that I don't think that Joe and Walsh were the main turnarounds, but let's not forget the reality of it. They got 3 or 4 or 5 fearsome defenders in 81. Ronnie Lott, fearsome as they come, future Hall of Famer. Eric Wright, fearsome as they come, cutting edge, awesome corner. Carlton Williamson, fierce as they come, strong safety. Jack Hacksaw Reynolds, fierce as they come, old inside linebacker. And then who did they trade for? Fred Dean. So you know what? You can go young and build your young team and still have a Hacksaw Reynolds and a Fred Dean as fearsome defenders that help carry you to your first Super Bowl. And I think the Niners shouldn't forget that. Defensive end, you could go with Joey Bosa and then use all these picks to fill up the team around, and maybe Bosa off the edges as veterans. Maybe you could get that ring. I'm not saying that you couldn't. So I'm interested. I'm very interested.
I would be interested in DeMario Davis.
Yeah.
Since we're going to go, talk about a little bit of an older tooth that you're adding to your defense, I would be interested in Caden Ellis out of Atlanta this year. He's a really good cover the entire field linebacker. He's good against.
He's young. He's a young guy.
Yeah, he's a younger guy, but he's also really good at blitzing at linebacker, and I think that's something they could be doing more of this year, especially if they don't have we can get to the quarterback with 4 down defensive linemen. And I know that this is really old man football. Bobby Wagner, man. Bobby Wagner's still a hell of a football player. But if you're talking about who you need to go out and sign, dude, if Tyler Linderbaum is really on the market from the Ravens, you go get him. You go get Connor McGovern. You go get Ethan.
The only thing about the Linderbaum thing is Linderbaum, if you look at where he was rated, was only rated at 10, 12 spots over Brendel. You're going to pay him 5 times. I mean, he's going to command 5 times what Brendel makes. So I'm with you. I like Linderbaum too. I always liked him. He's good. He was good at Iowa. In fact, you know what, Damon? One of my scenarios, because I like to go with themes, right? And I've already told you I really like the Indiana guys. But I'll tell you another theme that I really do kind of as an idea is the all Iowa offensive line approach.
So you like Jennings Dunker?
I love Jennings Dunker and that funky red mullet, and I think he could be a great right tackle. Maybe at worst, he's going to be an awesome guard. They also have a guy named Bo Stevens, who's a wrestler who can play center or guard, and you could go after Linderbaum in free agency. So, like, if you really wanted to, if you decided, you know what, we got to get a kick-ass O-line, you could go draft Bo Stevens and Dunker and sign Linderbaum. Add 3 Iowa guys. Iowa runs the exact same scheme as the Niners run, outside zone. And you could upgrade your offensive line with 3 Iowa guys, and I don't think that would be a bad decision at all.
Let's go ahead. You already got Connor Colby. Let's go. Let's go. Right. Iowa everywhere.
Right. And supposedly Jennings Dunker has the mullet because of Connor Colby.
Okay.
Connor Colby's mullet led Jennings Dunker to his mullet. But, I mean, the all Iowa grouping right there with Kittle especially would be phenomenal. I mean, Kirk Ferentz is considered at his core to be one of the best offensive line coaches in America, regardless of pro or college. He is a great O-line coach. And if you could take some of his best pupils and add them to your offensive line, I think that might be the way to go. That's another theme that I would definitely consider.
We got this all eyes draft, Iowa and Indiana everywhere you look.
Yeah, I mean, you could do way worse. Fuji says, does Eddie Pinheiro sign a multi-year deal with the team? Yes, I think so. I mean, the franchise tag number I think is 6.7 mil, and he made 1.2 mil, and there, I could see him making like 4.9, 5.2, something like that. I don't know if he's going to get franchise tag money.
3 years, 16 mil.
Let's do it. To me, he is the guy he is the only free agent that you have to sign is him. Everybody else, you can decide what you want, but he's the guy you got to sign. Thomas Selman in the house. Who are you taking at 27? It's a tough call because we don't even know who's going to be there at 27.
Right. Well, look at it this way. Jennings Dunker could be in that realm, Larry. I think Caden Proctor, the tackle from Alabama. I even saw, I think, someone on ESPN actually mocked him to the 49ers at 27.
I would. To me, that makes no sense. I mean, he is a gap scheme offensive lineman who's absolutely huge. And I get the idea of get a big offensive lineman, but he doesn't fit your scheme. I mean, I'm at practice every day. What the Niners do in offensive line practice is sprint off the ball. And the Niners and Chris Furster, the O-line coach, and he's pretty respected. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. They like the offensive linemen that can move. They want guys who can move off the ball and sprint off the ball. So I don't think Caden Proctor is even going to be on their list.
Here's the thing. Are you looking to get better at pass pro?
It's funny, Tankathon right now, Damon. I'm looking at their mock. They have Caden Proctor coming to the Niners at 6'7", 370. I would say, who am I taking at 27? I'm taking either Caleb Banks, the gigantic 6'6", 330-pound defensive tackle from Florida, but I got to check out that foot. He only played 3 games this year. And that's a concern to me because
I don't like big men with foot problems.
I don't like big men with foot problems, but Damon, this guy is really special, really special. If I wasn't taking him, I like the safety from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who's a big safety. I love Jennings Dunker, and then I really love Zion Young. Zion Young from Missouri would probably be my pick. I mean, Zion Young's really good against the run and the pass. He's 6'5", he's 260, 6.5 sacks this year for Missouri.
Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle out of Utah. Check that guy out.
Well, I'll give you the other one. I'll give you the other one. What I would do is I would trade back a few spots from 27, and I'd take D'Angelo Pons.
Pons in the second round.
I get no problem. They have Pons. They have Pons in this tankathon going 49, and I think that's probably about right. I think he's going to be right around 50. And if I'm the Niners, I would take my pick at 27, and I would just try to trade, down the board maybe 2 or 3 times and get into that 40 range, and then take Pons.
Let me ask you, you watch a lot of Texas A&M. What do you think of Cassius Howell, the edge?
I love him. I mean, he's super speedy. He's unbelievable.
He's small.
Well, no, you know what his problem? The reason I can't take Cassius Howell in the first round is he's got short arms. Like, remember the guy last year from Marshall who went to the Ravens, the defensive end, and he had all kinds of moves, but he had short arms, and he didn't do tons this year for the Ravens. So that would be my only concern about Cassius Howell, is that he's a little bit. I mean, he's a speed rusher, and he's a speed, and that would work out well in the wide 9, but the short arms are kind of make him limited. So yeah, I mean, D'Angelo Pons is 5'9", 175, and a lot of people would be like, "What? You're going to take a 5'9", 175-pound corner in the first round?" And I think first round's probably a little too rich, but I would trade out of that first round, and that would be where I'd start the draft with Pons, because you gotta match up. You gotta have big time guys, and Pons is an awesome player. I mean, let's be honest about this. This guy is an awesome player. He's 5'9", 180 or 5'9", 170. He's a total dog. He is absolutely Upton Stout with better coverage ability. He's a better version of Upton Stout, and Upton Stout was one of your best young players. And here's the other thing with the Niners: you can't take anybody who's going to be a risk. You gotta. I mean, like Damon just said it. Like I said, Caleb Banks. And I said, he's got a foot problem. He was like, you can't, big guys with feet problem, that's a problem, right? Well, yeah. So, like, you gotta not assume, but you gotta at least consider that you may get to the 3rd week of training camp, and Caleb Banks could have a stress reaction and be done for the year. So that's one reason to kind of steer clear. So you're trying to look for the clean, especially early in the draft. You're looking for the best players, but you're looking for the cleanest prospects that aren't going to be problems off the field, like James Pierce, who's probably going to prison. I don't know if you saw that story. That's just an unbelievable story. So anyway, you got to get guys that are, good football players, and then are healthy, and then are good guys, or at least not bad guys. So there's a lot of work to be done. But to me, the safest thing would be to probably trade back into the second round and take either Jennings Dunker, Zion Young, or D'Angelo Pons.
By the way, let me just sneak this in. New subscriber tapping in. It's great. Welcome. It's one thing to subscribe. It's another thing to actually show up and watch the shows. Thank you for being here. We won't hold the Raider shield against you at all. Thank you for watching Wake Up. Hit like and subscribe and all those good things. We're going to be here all off season long.
Fuji says, spring training is here. Your expectations for the Giants?
84 wins, Larry. They're going to...
I like the Giants this year. I think the Giants are going to be way better this year. And here's why. Because the Giants have now, their farm system has graduated to the point where they now have 10 to 15 really good prospects that are somebody, Damon, is going to emerge. And I'll put the number at 2.5 over under. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 giant young players that emerge in this camp in March, that are going to be good, that are going to be guys. Maybe it's Eldridge, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's that guy. There's a bunch of pitchers, there's a bunch of different offensive players. They've got guys that are now not in A-ball, but they're more in that AA, AAA range, and they're ready to make a breakthrough. And some of them will. Dakota Jordan is a name to keep in mind.
Great, Larry. Sounds like Nate Shearholtz to me.
I like 85 wins. I like 85 wins for the Giants with from where I'm sitting right now.
I got to give it up. I got to give it up to Dieter Kurtenbaugh, who I even went up to on Media Row, and I said, "You had maybe the Twitter headline of the year attached to your Giants spring training sort of offseason breakdown," and he said that the Giants this offseason, have added plausible deniability. I thought that was perfect. They did just enough to where you can't say they didn't do anything, but they didn't do quite enough to make me go like, ooh, maybe it is time to think about season tickets. Like they did just enough to get guys like you and me off their back a little.
They
but not
did
enough to get real excited about.
Well, I mean, here's the bottom line on the thing. They did plenty compared to most teams. They just didn't do shit compared to the Dodgers, who added Kyle Tucker.
Right.
I mean, can you imagine? I mean,
I'll tell you what, though.
This is why baseball sucks, I'd be honest.
Dude, Kyle Tucker is an overspend by galactic proportions. I mean, it's crazy. Kyle Tucker.
They found out that he was getting $50 million a year, and they said, we'll give you 60. They didn't say, we'll give you 51. We'll give you 52, 55. They just blew it up, out of the water and said, here's 60. I mean, it's just the Dodgers. I mean, that's not good for baseball. Come on. To have one team that's on top, that's just outbids everybody just for fun by huge amounts. You know, it just doesn't work. It just does not work.
What really needs to happen, I think more than anything, is baseball needs to implement a floor in spending, because the union's never going to agree to a cap. So they need to implement a floor in spending, and they also need to enact the rule. There is no more pay you down the road contracts. You got to pay to play now. You can't have deferred payment. You can't be like, oh, we're going to sign Shohei Ohtani for $400 million.
But $1 this year.
Yeah. I mean, that can't happen.
No, I agree. You can't. The deferred payment thing has to be in line. The other thing is they have mechanisms within the game to have competitive balance. Like the Dodgers lost 4 of their top 6 draft picks, but they didn't flinch, and they didn't deter them from signing Kyle Tucker. So I hate to say this, but it needs to be more severe. It really does. If you want to be the Dodgers and you want to spend $60 million and blow out the structure, that's fine, but you shouldn't have a pick until the 10th round. Right. You know what I mean? Larry, instead of taking away 4 picks in the top 6, how about take away their top 10 picks, and let's see what it will. Something has to slow their roll. The one thing that, if you look at the Dodgers, name me a dominant Dodger that they developed. Have you noticed quietly they have nobody? Mookie Betts? No. Freddie Freeman?
They traded away all of their prospects for proven players. I mean, they really did.
Blake Snell? No. I mean, they had Kershaw, right? I mean, their farm system, believe it or not, I don't want to say it's dried up, but there's an article in the LA Times that I read this week, and you guys should go check it out. And it basically talks about how the Dodgers hype their prospects, and their prospects don't amount to shit. That none of their prospects. The Giants have invited Diego Cartaya, a former hotshot Dodger prospect, as a non-roster invitee to camp this year. He's just one of many, many Dodger picks that have crapped out. But it's like, what difference does your farm system matter if you can just go sign an entire team of great players? And that's what they've done. They have hardly any guys out of their farm system. It's a total bought and paid for thing. People complained to the Warriors when they got KD, but they drafted Steph. They drafted Harrison Barnes. They drafted Draymond. They drafted, Festus. They drafted like the guys that were around him. Klay Thompson. They drafted all those guys. But it was like, oh, they bought their title. Why? Because Durant joined them? No, I mean, well, if you're going to say they bought their title, then the Dodgers have clearly bought their titles.
Hey, look at it this way. Buy all the fucking titles you can. If it's just that easy, go out and do it. You know what I mean? I hate that I'm accusing this team of buying its success. Well, guess what? In sports, the more money you spend on your team, the chances of getting closer to success improve. They don't fall apart the more money you usually spend on a team.
You need an even playing field, though. And right now, it's like baseball. It's you have the haves and the have-nots, and the haves have now gotten to be one have. It's the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers have blown the thing away. Now, it's easy to say, oh, well, they're the best. Okay, yeah, they're the best. But I liked the old school baseball where it was about drafting and developing. And if you had the best scouts and the best GM and the best front office, then you were the best, and you complemented that and with free agents. But they're just building an entire free agent team. They're just shopping off the top shelf.
How much
And
do you
then
think
they're
Brian
complementing
Sabian,
it with their farm system, which
how much
is
do you think Brian
opposite.
Sabian looks at the way baseball operates now and just gets sick to his stomach?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm going to have him on the show. And he's a good friend. And he's done some incredible things. Even with the Yankees, he's back with the Yankees. But yeah, I mean, it's just you got the old adapt or die. But at the same time, I agree with you. You got to have a floor. It's not about limiting what the Dodgers spend. It's about forcing the A's to spend 50 million more, forcing the worst teams to. And I understand why they don't. They're like, hey, if we're going to lose, we might as well lose spending 100 million. Why do we want to lose spending 150 million? But right now, what it equates to is a lot of bad games between
competitive
teams
balance.
Yeah,
competitive balance.
Why do I want to watch the A's play the Dodgers for a 3-game series if the Dodgers are going to win every game 8-1? And I know that before I even leave my house.
Right. Larry, let's get through the rest of these supers, and I have one more question to ask you, and then we'll be done for the show.
Quick mention of we're brought to you by Sleeper. Quick shout out to our friends at Sleeper. You already know Sleeper for fantasy football and daily fantasy, but they've also rolled out something new called Team Picks. Team Picks is built right into the Sleeper app, and it lets you make simple predictions on game outcomes instead of worrying about player stats or setting lineups. You're just choosing which team you think is going to win. Real easy. It's designed to be straightforward and easy to understand, especially if you like following games closely but don't want to deal with all that extra complexity. If you're already on Sleeper for fantasy, it's right there waiting for you. If you're new, Sleeper continues to be an all-in-one platform for following your teams and staying connected to the action. Thank you, Sleeper. Fuji says World Series was better than the Super Bowl. Yeah, it was. Definitely was. We got this one here. Fuji, Chris Paul just retired. Not much of a farewell tour. Chris Paul, one of the worst decisions that Joe Lacob made was trading Jordan Poole for Chris Paul. And not that Jordan Poole was like, oh my God, look what he's become. But don't trade. Here's like a rule of thumb in sports, and it doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. Don't trade 23-year-old guys with potential for 38-year-old guys who are finishing.
Never won anything. Who've never won anything. Chris Paul, great player. He is not part of a winning team. He is not part of a winning combination. He's not part of a winning culture. He was a really good individual point guard, and it really never amounted to much more than that, if we're being totally honest.
Yeah. Fuji says going to Australia for the season opener against the Rams. It's funny. Kev was asking me, he's like, Dad, are we going to go to Australia? And I'm like, you know what? We may want to go to Australia. I mean, that seems like an amazing thing. I definitely would love to go to Mexico City. I just really feel like,
Mexico City's an easy trip. That's just going to Miami, for goodness sakes. That's an easy trip to make. Australia is a big trip to make.
As far as cost, you mean, or time?
Yes, on both fronts.
Like what's a flight to Australia going to cost? Couple grand?
Much more than a flight to Mexico City. Plus, you're going to want to go at least business class. You're not going to want to be in coach for 18 hours to Australia or whatever that is.
They even have coach on an 18-hour flight to Australia?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely they do. You're going to be at least in business there or economy plus. So that's an expensive ticket. Plus, if you're in Australia, how many times are you going to be in Australia in your entire life? This one time, probably. Well, so you're going to land in Melbourne, but then you're going to want to go see Sydney. So you're going to want to do both of those trips. And then what I'm talking about this with Jillian, and the reason why there's a fraction of a chance that we might go is because she's always wanted to scuba dive the Great Barrier Reef, which, by the way, is on the other fucking side of Australia. So,
Sydney and Melbourne are how far from one another?
Pretty far, I think.
Oh, well, I've told myself I really want to go to Mexico City. I mean, that would be an amazing.
Look at it this way: Sydney to Melbourne is a 9-hour drive.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to fly.
Yeah. So I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I could see myself going to Mexico City. Probably, I'm not sure about Australia, but you know what? I may be convinced. Might be worth doing. All right, that's going to do it for us.
Oh, okay. So here's my one question for you. Do you think that Team Kuminga, his friends, his entourage were literally like lifting chafing dishes out of the buffet and taking them home or bringing them to their tables? How in God's name does a team that is worth $11.5 billion like literally taco check the amount of tacos being eaten in their family room? Like, what the fuck was that? In my history of covering sports, I've never heard a single more petty detail of why things weren't working out between player and team. Of, yeah, his entourage is taking too much from the family buffet. Seriously?
Well, first of all, I think the Warriors are losers at this point. I mean, Joe Lacob's at this point, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's never going to win a title again. I guarantee. Put it down, mark it down. He's never going to win a title again, because he doesn't know what he's doing, and his kids are running the team, and
thinks he does.
He thinks he knows what he's doing, and his kids think they know what they're doing. They chased out all their talent evaluators. They make terrible moves. Their team is boring as shit. They're going nowhere. But this is also in poor taste, very poor taste. There are people that will tell you, oh, don't say this about this person because you don't know their background. You don't know what they grew up with. And a lot of times it's bullshit. It's just like ways to say, leave this person alone, and they shouldn't be protected. But this is a guy who grew up in the Congo, and, he may have some food insecurity issues. He may have some, something. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's lived away from his parents from age 15
on handbag and have food security issues at the same time. He knows he has enough money to get food, but
this is where he grew up. I mean, he may have grown up with not enough food on the table. He may have grown up where food is, so to sit there and to bring that up, it's like, it's bullshit. We all know that if Steph Curry and his entourage ate 5 times as much food as Jonathan Kuminga and took 5 times as much food out of there, Joe would help them pack it in their car. It's not about the food. It's about Kuminga, and they're trying to poison the waters. And I really don't think I don't like people who play dirty pool, especially in the aftermath. I didn't like it when Dusty's tax issues were released by the Giants when they said goodbye to him in 2002. That was dirty. Now they've kissed and made up, and he's back, and that good for them and good for him. And but still, that was dirty. If that was Peter McGowan, that was wrong. If whoever did that was wrong. Okay.
How many biscuits would Sonia Curry have to put in her purse before the Warriors said something about it?
Sonia Curry could steal every piece of food in the entire arena and give it to her best friend, and Joe would be like, hey, you know what? Her best friend deserved all that food.
Right. She could be hanging lobster tails from her ears like earrings coming out of the buffet, and they wouldn't have said a word.
They wouldn't have said nothing. So that is dirty to sit there and talk about some guy. He took too much food from the buffet. You guys are losers. And here's the thing. The Warriors were losers. Joe bought them. Don Nelson and Larry Riley had turned them into winners. Joe got to sit there and enjoy it and pretend like he was the difference when he wasn't the difference. And now we're going to find out what Joe really is about. And let's see what they win after this run. They're not going to win anything. And then
Lake has been a staggeringly obvious, easy to prove in court on a spreadsheet, a winner through and through from a business standpoint, but he's not satisfied with that. He wants to be regarded as a basketball mind. And this is where the Jerry Jonesing of the Golden State Warriors starts to happen. This guy thinks that him and his son have basketball instincts. And that is something that should terrify Warriors fans.
Yeah, seriously. Sorry, Joe. Just because you played pickup at Stanford with a bunch of guys doesn't mean that you know basketball. And just because your kid happened to do something once upon a time doesn't mean that he knows basketball. You had Jerry West, Bob Myers, Travis Schlenk, Don Nelson, Larry Riley. You had Larry Harris. You had a room full of the best evaluators, and you got a dynasty. And don't pretend that you're the reason that you got.
And when they told you to draft,
you're the luckiest motherfucker there is.
When they told you to draft Wagner, you drafted Kuminga. That was you.
Right. And, once again, you're put your kid in charge and you got rid of Jerry West. How'd that work out for you? They're never going to win. They're never going to win. And then, it's going to be just same thing as the Cowboys. Cowboys won 3 rings. It was all because of Jimmy. And then Jerry was a business success, and he's built the star, and he's, the Jerry's world, and he's got more money than he knows what to do with. But guess what? He's got no rings, and Lakers going to have no rings. And that's just a fact. We got this one. I can't even read that. What does that say?
If we're so bad in the early rounds, why not trade them away for a sure proven player? Again, that kind of went into my logic about Justin Jefferson as well. You guys are only going to fuck up your first round pick anyways, especially if you're thinking about going wide receiver, which means everyone should be shot in the head because you need so much more. You do need wide receivers, but you don't need a first rounder unless that first rounder is perennial Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer Justin Jefferson that you would add via trade. He's interesting. It's probably not going to happen, but it's an interesting discussion. I'm going to continue it with our friend Larry Sambatesh coming up at 11 on the Plus. I know you're going to be a busy guy, and we'll get back together on Monday once again. So thanks for everyone for watching. Appreciate you being here. Like and subscribe to both channels if you would, please. Eat at Ike's, drink at the Dubliner West Portal, check out Sleeper, and all that good stuff. Larry, thank you very much. You take us home, brother.
Yeah, thanks to Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. If you need a good lawyer, give Habbas Law a call, 1-800-INJURED, habbaslaw.com on the web. They're fantastic attorneys. Insurance companies stall, they deny, they play games. Habbas Law cuts right through it. Give them a call if you need a good lawyer, 1-800-INJURED, habbaslaw.com on the web. They will fight to make it right. And that's going to do it for us. I'm going to be joined by Chase Sr. in 3 minutes on the Krueger Show. Until then, peace.